Okay, hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Am I on?
Yeah.
I am? Okay. Welcome to Head Talks. How are you all? All right, so today we're in our second on this new series, which is the origins of holidays, our traditional holidays. And I'm going to share with you the wonderful and weird, bizarre, crazy things that I have found, that I have discovered. So, do you know what we're covering today? What holiday are we covering today? Does anybody know?
Easter.
Wait, who said Halloween?
That was
Yep.
last week.
That was last week.
That was last week, but guess what? So whoever said, was that you, Edith? I'm calling you out. I'm doing that because you are actually correct. We haven't done a review in Head Talks. We do it in Bible history all the time, so we really have to. We haven't done it here in Head Talks in a while because it hasn't really lent itself to doing that. But as I'm researching and pulling this series together, I'm really finding a lot of connections. A lot of the ancient traditions will cover the holidays that we have separated out. And so I think what we'll do is we will be doing a quick review of the week before so we can see how they relate and interact with one another. So yes, Edith, last week was Halloween. So we're going to very quickly go over Halloween, and you remember that it was from what we get what?
The Druids. You're going to talk about
The Druids, yes.
The Druids.
Yes, so the ancient Celtic folklore is what comes down to us as Halloween, as we celebrate Halloween today. But we get the information about their customs and traditions from who? Julius Caesar, exactly. Yes, exactly right. Yes, you're right. From Julius Caesar. So as the Romans conquered the British Isles, they are encountering this strange tribal people. And what do they think of them? You know, the cultured Romans, what did they think of these people?
They don't think much of them.
They were wild, crazy people in the forest, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't help us at all that the Druids had no what? Records. They had a writing system. They are educated and intelligent within their own culture, but they didn't write things down. And it's thought that they didn't write them down because they don't want who to get their wisdom. Exactly, yes. And so there isn't anything to combat what the Romans are saying, is there?
No.
So we have to just kind of sift through and take everything with a grain of salt and understand the source. We have to understand the source. And because we don't have anything in writing, we're left with ruins that are very mysterious. What did we look at last week?
Oh, the Stonehenge.
Yes. Peggy, have you been there?
Yes.
Last week, you weren't here last week. I said if Peggy were here, she would say she had been there.
And I was able to walk up to it and touch.
You were able to touch the stones?
I went a long time ago when you could touch them.
When you could, yeah, because it's all fenced off now, right?
Right.
Yeah, because people go in and disturb it, take pieces of rock and stuff. All right, so for hundreds and hundreds of years, there is this stone monument that had no answers, right? They didn't know what it was. They couldn't figure it out. And so do you think that some crazy wild stories emerged as a result of the not knowing? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Now, it wasn't until World War I, remember World War I, we had a brand new, never happened before, weapon of war.
Airplane.
Excellent, yes, excellent. We had airplanes, and so there was a World War I pilot who was also very interested in archaeology. And he noticed, what?
Snoopy.
It was Snoopy? Yes. Yes, it was Snoopy. He was fighting the Red Baron, and while they were in the air over England, he noticed a real strange formation in the ground. And when they went to investigate, they realized that there were impressions from another Stonehenge type of a figure, but this is called Woodhenge. All right? Now, the wood would not have survived. Okay? It would have corroded. But there were impressions, and they were able to reconstruct from the impressions in the ground. And so there's another circular structure. And it's not far from Stonehenge. Woodhenge is not far from Stonehenge. And what they have deduced from this is that what we are looking at is Stonehenge as the culmination of what could be a funeral procession, a memorial procession, some type of religious procession. And we have the route, all right, the route from Woodhenge to Stonehenge. So now we have a little bit better of an understanding of what those monuments are. In addition to that, we have them other places in the world, don't we?
Yes.
We looked at one last week. We'll look at this I took a lot of the photos out because it's a review. But in Ireland, we have the Hill of Tara, correct? And it is a procession. You can see clearly that this is a procession, and it culminates in a standing stone structure. All right, so Stonehenge isn't the only one. There are several of these in the world, so they feel very confident that that's what it was. All right, it was the end of a funeral procession. And we also understand that what the culture was in ancient Celtic times is it is a belief in what?
Ancestor worship.
What do the ancestors do for you?
They keep you safe.
Yes, exactly. They protect you, they keep you safe. They are the ones who will bestow blessings on you. You're going to ask them for rain in its season, right? You're going to ask them for a good harvest. What do you need in the harvest? You need a good harvest to do what? Get you through
The winter.
Yes, exactly, to keep you alive. And so it is the ancestors that are able to provide you with these blessings. And they're able to do that because there is a very thin veil. All right, the belief isn't that they've gone to heaven or hell, right? What's the belief? Where are they? They're only on
The other side.
the other side. They're very close. They're near you. They're just in a realm that you can't see. But they're there, and you can communicate with them. But there is one time of the year when that veil is especially thin, okay? And there is heightened communication between the worlds, between the realms, okay? What time of year is that?
Halloween.
What we would call Halloween, yes, yes. But it isn't called Halloween yet.
Oh.
It's not even called All Hallows Eve yet. We're not there yet.
What is it?
No, it's not. We're before all that. We don't even have Catholicism yet. All right, so you're all quoting Catholic holidays. No, we don't even have Catholicism yet. It hasn't been formed yet. No, it is the time of the harvest. It's the time of the harvest. And what better time? So it's at the end of October. It's within the ballpark of what we know of as Halloween, right? The time of the harvest. What better time would there be than the time of the harvest? Because not only are you reveling in the bounty of what you were able to glean for the year, but also it is a great gathering time. Do you remember that from last year?
Yes.
A great gathering time. It's not just you It's all the clans. All the clans come together. You remember that? All right, so all the clans come together in this great celebration of all the peoples is called, do you remember what it's called? Samhain. Samhain, remember that from last week? It's called Samhain. So we hear this word Samhain, and we get imagery of like demonic, evil practices, things that might look more like this, right? Oh, who's all excited about this? Somebody over there is enjoying this too much. So we're getting this kind of imagery, but who are we getting it from?
From the Romans.
The Romans, excellent. Yes, you're right. That's who we're getting it from. It really doesn't look like this. It looks more like this. All right? This is what it was. It was a harvest festival. All the clans have gotten together. They're celebrating the harvest. And because all the clans are together, this is going to be a time when you can tend to other things. This is the height of the year. And the other things that you're going to tend to will be overseen by the wise men of the people, right? And the wise men of the people are the who? The Druids, exactly. You're exactly right. And they're not just religious leaders, they're also lawyers, right? They're also the governors. They govern the people. And so at this great feast and festival, you're going to have marriages. Doesn't that make sense?
Oh, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, if all the clans have come together, are you going to be looking to get a husband or wife? Okay, and then other things are going on, other business type things are going to be happening because you're all together. All right, so if you had a loan, you would pay it at this time. If you need a loan, you would take it out at this time. All of these transactions are occurring at this time. And because it is a great family celebration, wouldn't you naturally include the ancestors? Because they're a big part of it, aren't they? So you're going to also remember the ancestors. So it is at the end of October, the time of the harvest, this great celebration, Samhain, when all the people are together, and there is going to be great gratitude and worship of the ancestors in addition to all of these other things that are happening. So that continues to go on, and now we can bring in Catholicism. All right? You jumped the gun a little bit, but now we're going to bring them in. So they're here in the 7th century, all right? And they're seeing this great festival. And do the Romans, because really they're Roman, do they have a harvest festival? Do they celebrate the harvest?
Oh, yeah.
Of course they do. So when they see Samhain, are they going to try to get rid of it?
Sure.
No,
No.
They didn't get rid of it?
of course not, because it's just a harvest festival.
Oh.
It's just everybody has a harvest festival. Everybody. So it stays in place, however, and this is what we're going to see throughout the series. They're seeing something where they can make a connection with these people, with these native peoples. All right? So they're going to have an influence on Samhain. All right? So what is the connection that the missionaries are seeing in the celebration of Samhain?
Celebrating their harvest and the food.
The thing that is common ground where they can hopefully relate to their faith. What?
The worship of the people who are
Yes, the worship of the people that have passed. So the missionaries have something. You were saying it just a few minutes ago, right? They have something, All Saints' Day. And what is that? That is remembering
All
this,
the good people have passed away.
all the good people that have passed away. Exactly right. So it was such a common ground because they were just regular people. They weren't angels or, right? So the common ground is, all right, we acknowledge our regular people that have passed away and they've gone to the other side. And you recognize your people that have passed away and gone to the other side. And so it was such a connection that the Pope changed All Saints' Day to coincide with, excellent, excellent, because now they can share their faith and they're going to get their attention because they've got this in common. Do you see how that would work for them? All right, they've got this in common. They're going to be able to, share more about their faith with them because now they have this thing together. All right, so they changed All Hallows Day to November 1st, which means All Hallows Day falls immediately after All Hallows Eve, and All Hallows Eve is what we know of as what? Halloween. Exactly, exactly. And then what happens on November 2nd?
All Souls Day.
All Souls Day. And what's that about?
All the people who have passed.
All of the people that passed away, but they didn't go straight to heaven. Where'd they go?
Purgatory.
They go to purgatory. So what do they need to get out of purgatory?
Prayers.
They need prayers, they need prayers, they need prayers, exactly. So all of the people that we love, we don't know if they went straight to heaven or they could be in purgatory. They need our prayers, they need our prayers. So we have All Souls Day. So there's All Hallows Eve, All Saints Day, or All Hallows Day, and then All Souls Day. What the children did in ancient Europe was they would go from house to house to house, and they would sing or they would perform, and the people that owned property, that owned these homes, so they had money, right? The children were usually poor. They would receive something from the homeowner, and it was called soul cakes. So they received soul cakes. All right, so the children go and they sing or they do something. They receive a soul cake, and then they are going to say a prayer for whoever has passed away in the home. What does that sound like?
Trick or treat.
Funeral.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, exactly. It sounds like trick-or-treating. You go from house to house, you receive something. But they're singing. So it sounds like trick-or-treat, but it also sounds like what? Yes, yes. Do you see how things are connecting? They're connecting to all kinds of holy days, holy festivals, holidays. Okay, so when they're doing this, it's not just for All Souls Day. It's any holiday. The children will go from house to house and receive something. And then this is in keeping with Christianity's commitment to what? Caring for the poor. All right? So it happened frequently. It didn't happen once a year. It happened several times a year where the children would go and they would receive something from property owners. All right, so all of this, right, it doesn't sound scary at all, does it?
No.
What is so spooky about that? There's not anything spooky about this. We have a harvest festival. We have children receiving things, right? It just, people praying for each other. It doesn't sound terrible at all. So how does it get spooky? What happens? Does anybody remember from last week? All right, I will have to refresh your memory. Okay, so the thing that happens is the Puritans. The Puritans, right? All right, so this is very important. This is very important. This is exactly how it happened. All right, so the Puritans are the ones that bring the scary into it. I'm sure they didn't mean to, but they did. And the way that happened is, you remember Martin Luther, and he posts his 95 Thesis, and it is in opposition to what?
Catholic Church.
Indulgences.
Indulgences.
Indulgences, exactly, indulgences. And who are the indulgences for?
The people who are still in purgatory.
The people in purgatory, exactly, the people in purgatory. But do the Protestants believe in purgatory?
No.
No, they don't. They don't believe in purgatory. All right, so now you have to start thinking about this. All right, if there's no purgatory, but we have these spirits, and they're especially close at the end of October, and we know that these spirits are not our grandmother, because our grandmother went straight to heaven, right? Then they must be excellent, evil. You got it. Then they must be evil spirits, and we have to be careful of this. All right, so now it's become a scary thing, because all of the people that we love are going to go straight to heaven, and those spirits that are around, especially at the end of October, those are evil, those are demonic. And so when the Puritans come to New England, what do they decided to do? We are not celebrating this at all. We're not doing this. And they didn't for a little while, until something happened in Ireland. What happened in Ireland? Yes, and so we had a whole lot of Irish immigrants coming to New England, and they brought with them some of their traditions to add into the creepy evil spirits that thing's already going on. All right, so what did they bring with them? The jack-o'-lantern. All right, the story of the jack-o'-lantern. But that's not really that scary. He's kind of cute, right? Yeah, he's a little bit cute. But you know, originally, when the Irish came, it was not so cute because they weren't using cute pumpkins. They were using terrifying turnips.
Oh, that's right.
Remember? Terrifying turnips. So yeah, that is, okay? Like if you came across that, would you cross the street? I would. Okay, and then the other thing that they brought with them was, if these spirits are evil, you have to disguise yourself, all right, so that the evil spirits won't know who you are, they won't recognize you. Okay, so you have to disguise yourself, and what does that evolve into?
Costumes.
Excellent, costumes, okay. And then the other thing that they brought were these crazy stories about werewolves. Remember, Effie, you didn't want me to tell about werewolves last week? Werewolves, and they think that might have come from a personality disorder, a psychological disorder called lycanthropy, where a person believes that they are a wild animal, and they live that way. So they appear like wild beasts, and so these are now called what? Shapeshifters, exactly. So it's people, so they think people have the ability to turn into something else. And one of the scariest things, witches, yes, they can shapeshift, but they have into other, several things, but they have their favorite shape-shifting animal, their favorite familiar is what it's called. What's that? Yes, the black cat. All right, so that's where the superstition about the black cat comes from. The witch will shapeshift into a black cat. So if you see one, it might not be a black cat, it might be a what? Exactly. And where do witches come from? Remember, it was the women who were the healers. Yeah, the women were the healers, and so they're out in the forest and they're gathering what?
Herbs.
Exactly, yes, they're getting roots and plants and herbs, and then they're coming back and they're mixing them all together, and that's where we get the imagery of the cauldron. The witch's brew, exactly. But what they're doing is they know and understand medicinal properties of plants, and so what they're doing is they are creating, medicines, exactly. Thank you, Peggy, medicines. But they become witches. So the very person that's going to help you, I mean, talk about looking a gift horse in the mouth. All right, and then they do the same thing to midwives. So if a woman, sadly, has a stillborn birth and then another, what's the first thing they're going to do? They'll accuse the midwife of being a witch, and this is where all the Hansel and Gretel type stuff, like the witch will eat your children, that kind of thing, comes from, that they use children. All right, so that's where that comes from. And so, of course, we have the most wonderful, wonderful manual that's going to help us determine who is and who is not a witch. Remember? Remember that book by Kramer? Remember that guy? All right, and so we went through a couple of them. We'll do it again very quickly. It was Kramer thought that if you're a witch, water would repel you. All right, because you're baptized in what? Water. Right, exactly. So then if you're the devil and you're of the devil, water will repel you. So naturally, the logical thing to do is to tie the person up and throw them in the river. And if they float, then you are for sure a witch. But if you drown, then you're innocent.
That don't make sense.
Right? So that, yeah, because the water has accepted you. So at least you can know that you died innocent. At least you have that. Okay? And then there was also the prayer test. Remember the prayer test? We talked about that last week. So they said that it's impossible for a witch to say the Lord's Prayer perfectly from beginning to end. You cannot possibly do that if you are a witch. And so they put you in front of the Inquisition, and they ask you to recite the Lord's Prayer in a room full of people that hate your guts. And if you can't do this correctly, you're going to what? Die. You're going to be burned at the stake. You're going to be hanged. All right, so how many people do you think get through it without going, Not many.
No.
All right, and then the other thing was the devil's mark. The devil's mark. And so they're stripping down these women in the court, the inquisitor, wherever they are, and they're looking for a freckle, a mole, a birthmark, anything like that. How many people have those things? And then, if anybody had such a thing, they found that because they were so terrified that they were actually trying to cut them out. They were trying to cut it off their body, and so the inquisitors would find the scar and say, she's guilty. She tried to hide the devil's mark, and here's the proof. So you just cannot win. All right? If you're accused, you're a goner. Basically, you're a goner. All right, so that's the story of witches. The other thing that comes into play is the Victorian era, because it's not just the Victorian era, it is the Gothic Victorian era. How many scary haunted houses are Victorian?
Most of them are.
All of them. All of them are Victorian. And how does that come to be? Well, we've got some fabulous authors of that day, of that time. We have Mary Shelley, and she gave us who? Yes. And then we also have this guy. Yes, yes, yes. And then we also have this guy.
Dracula.
Yes, Dracula. Okay, and then something else happens within this era, and sadly, that is the Civil War. And so many people died. There was so much death that the country, and this happened in Europe as well, turned to what? Yes, it was very big in the 1800s. Very big in the 1800s. I almost said, do you remember that? But you'll probably be mad at me if I ask you a question like that. Do you recall this from history, I should say? Yeah, and there were some really famous people that were completely into it. Remember Harry Houdini was very, very much into it. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, that's exactly right. You're right. All right, so it was getting way out of hand, wasn't it? It was way, way, way out of control. It's come a long, long way from a harvest festival, right? So we had to get control of it. So what did we do?
We embraced it again.
We turned it into a kid thing. We turned it into a kid thing. And we made it a harmless, happy, child's thing that everybody now embraces and loves. In fact, we love it so much. Guess how much money we spent on it this year?
16 billion.
Okay, well, someone said 6 billion, someone said 16. We're at $12 billion.
Close.
Second only to Christmas.
Just in this country, we spent $12 billion, and a lot of that, more of it I should say, has gone to costumes. The number one costume this year, yep, and then the other thing is more and more people than ever are buying costumes for, yes. All right, so look at this guy. I just love him. I know, I love both those babies. Okay, so that is the crazy story of Halloween. Would you ever have followed that line of reasoning? No? Well, if you thought that was a crazy ride, just wait. Just wait until you find out the crazy, crazy ride we're going to go on right now. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Easter. Do you know Easter does not appear anywhere in the Bible? It doesn't appear anywhere at all. It at one time appeared in the King James Version of the Bible, okay, and it's right here, and it's talking about after the arrest of Jesus. The soldiers were going to keep him until after Easter. They would bring him before the people after Easter. But this was a very clear mistake. It does not say Easter in the Hebrew, in the Aramaic, in the Greek. It does not say Easter, and so they made the correction in the New King James Version. And what is the correct word? It wasn't Easter, it was Passover, because what would they have been celebrating at the time of the... Yes, would they have been celebrating Easter? No. So it was Passover. There is absolutely no evidence, there's no evidence anywhere that the followers of Jesus added anything new, but that they continued to observe the holidays because they are what?
Jewish.
They're Jewish, so they were continuing to observe the Jewish holidays. And so we know that this is Passover. And Passover happens at the same time as what we know of as Easter, correct? So what is that about? What is Passover?
It's when Moses led the
Ex-
Israelites out of Egypt.
Excellent. So the Egyptians suffered many plagues, and the last one, the worst of the plagues, was the death of the firstborn child. And so the Hebrews What did the Hebrews have to do to protect themselves?
Put blood on that door.
Yes, so they had to put lamb's blood on their door, and then the death would do what? Pass over. Yes, the death would pass over. And this happens on the eve of what?
Easter.
No,
No?
we don't have Easter yet.
Oh.
This is on the eve of the Exodus, right?
Yeah.
All right, this is happening right before they're going to en masse leave out of Egypt. And so it's also called the Day of Unleavened Bread. And why is that? Exactly. They don't have, yes, it's unleavened everything. They don't have time for it to rise. And it's also a celebration from enslavement. They're going to pass through, all right? They're slaves on this side, but what are they on the other side?
Free.
Free. This is about liberty. All right? So this is about liberty. This is about leaving their enslaved lifestyle and going into freedom. All right, so we know that there's Passover, and we know that the followers of Jesus continue to observe the Jewish holidays, the traditional holidays. But were there any new observances given, such as Christmas or Easter, or were there any new observances given? There's a hint right there, folks.
Last Supper.
Yes, excellent, Dennis, excellent. Yes, there were two. There's two. There were only two observances that were given, and one is the bread and the wine, right? And to do this in remembrance of me. And then there's the second one. Do you know what the second one is?
Easter.
Nope.
Washing of the feet.
Yeah, foot washing. So there's two. There's communion, what we call communion, and there's foot washing. And those are the only two new observances that were given. So if we have this and we're understanding this, how do we go from this to that? How did that happen? All right, so we're going to try to understand that. You remember right up front, and we said Easter is not found anywhere in the Bible, right?
The red eggs are the blood of Christ.
Yes, we're not there yet, though.
Oh, we're not.
But we will get there.
Oh, are we?
I have that for you, Effie. All right, because I know you would want me to include that, which I did do.
Okay.
All right, but we're not there yet. All right, so we're trying to figure out how we get from this to this, because it seems like a wild leap, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of is. Okay, so we don't have the word Easter that occurs anywhere in the Bible, and the first time we're hearing it comes from, have you heard of Saint Bede? Saint Bede, he is an English monk, but he's also a historian. He wrote the history of the English church, the church in England, how it developed, all right? And he is writing about time frames, all right, how to reconcile time. And while he is trying to reconcile time and calendars, remember we have different calendars? The Jewish have their own calendar, and then there's the Gregorian calendar. We have the Julian calendar. We have all these calendars, and he's trying to reconcile time. See what time frame he's in? He died 735 AD. I put CE. I should have put AD. That's more understandable. All right, and so what does he say? This is the first time we see or hear the word Easter. And what he tells us about it is really stunning. Here's what he has to say. All right, so he's talking about how these times fall. And what he's sharing with us is that they fall according to the month of the ancient goddesses. Oh, right? All right. So the time of the Passover, which is when Jesus dies, right? Okay, so we have to look at the time of the Passover. That's when that happened. We know what was happening when he was crucified. All right, that is in the time. Oh, sorry. That was in the time of the goddess, the month of the goddess Easter.
Oh my God.
Does that sound like anything?
Yeah.
The goddess Easter. Okay? Now remember how the missionaries used the ancestor worship in All Saints' Day to form that bond with the native people and trying to help them understand. That's what's happening here too. Do you see that? Do you see what's happening? All right, so they've been worshiping a goddess. She is the goddess of spring. Okay, and she's Istra, and in different tribes, these are Germanic tribes. These are Saxons, and these are all the German tribes. So they've got different pronunciations. I'm going to show them to you. Okay, now she is in the 4th month of the year, so that would be the springtime, correct?
Yeah.
So Istra is the goddess of renewed life, correct? And she has a symbol. And do you know what her symbol is?
A rabbit.
Yes, a hare or a rabbit. But this isn't just any rabbit. Nope. This is a magic rabbit. Because this rabbit does something that no other rabbit does. Yes, exactly. This rabbit lays eggs. All right? So she's not just the goddess of the spring months, okay, Istra. She's not just the goddess of spring, but she's for a pet. She's got this magic rabbit that lays eggs. And in the ancient times, the children, they would make little nests, okay? And they would leave the empty nests out at night during the time of this spring celebration in hopes that Istra, her rabbit, would leave the children those magic eggs. All right, do you see what's happening here? All right, now these nests that the children hundreds of years ago wove together, what do you think that might have morphed into? Now it doesn't spell this right out anywhere, but I think we can put the pieces together, right? We can put the pieces together. We don't know. No one has said, Easter comes from Istra, and that's why we call it. We don't have documents that say that, but doesn't it make a lot of sense? All right, yes. All right, so we can follow the logic here. But let's take a look at Istra herself and the different names. Okay, so we've got these are from all the Germanic tribes. Okay, of Istra. Look at this one.
Easter.
Well, that comes right out and says it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then also, ladies, I'd like you to notice where we get the word. Did you know that?
No.
Did you realize that the word estrogen comes from an ancient Celtic goddess or Saxon goddess called Istra? Yeah, that's where that comes from. I wanted to make sure you all knew that.
That's interesting.
Okay, isn't that interesting? Okay, let's look a little further on Istra. Here's one of her names. You can't really read that, can you?
No.
All right, so it says Easter is a celebration of the spring equinox. It's a time of renewal, regeneration, and resurrection. On this day, we celebrate the fertility of earth, symbolizing spring with eggs, chicks, lambs, and rabbits. Okay? All right, so now do you see an opportunity for missionaries? Right? Because if this is a time of renewal and resurrection, would that be like a little open window? All right, so is it possible that that's what happened here? It's possible. But do you know that Easter is the Anglo-Saxon version of the goddess? Do you know that she's even older than that? Yeah, she's even older than that. She goes all the way back to the time of Babylon. Oh yes. Oh yes. Easter is connected with, have you heard of this name? Semiramis. Semiramis. That is the Greek version. That is the Greek version of the Mesopotamian goddess. All right. So all these goddesses of fertility and spring derive from this woman, and she must have one heck of a story then, right? Yeah. All right, well, let's find out what her story is. All right, she shows up on a stela from Mesopotamia, Iraq. They found it in Iraq. Okay, she shows up, and this is the actual one. All right, and it says something about her, and this is what it says. This is her Assyrian name, Semiramis, but the Greek version is Semiramis. Okay, and this is what it says about her. All right, so she is a wife who is the king. All right, she's the mother of the king in waiting. All right. King of all kings of Asher, and she's the daughter-in-law of another king. He's the king of the four corners of the world. All right, so that's it. That's the whole thing. That's
how
everything.
Easter came about.
This is all we know about Semiramis. The reason why this is mind-blowing is because they even put anything about a woman on a stela. All right? Yeah. This is the king's list. This is ancient Assyria, and they've got a woman engraved in stone. So she must be spectacular. She would have to be. Are there any other mention of any other women to be found? No. All right, so because she is mentioned here on this, that's it, my friends. That is the whole thing. Then people take their imagination and absolutely run rampant. They go berserk. And there's all kinds of tales. There's no evidence to back it up. All right? But it's this goddess of ancient Mesopotamia that comes down through time, and she becomes the goddess of fertility. But she, all we know is that she is the queen. She's the wife of someone, the mother of somebody, the daughter-in-law of somebody. All right? But there is stories about her son, and her son, Tammuz is his name. All right? And he is divinely conceived. When he's 40 years old, he dies, and he's killed by a boar, by a wild boar. And so now, this is the explanation for why we have ham at Easter. At Easter. All right? So So they're connecting this ancient myth. Or do you see the wild ride we're taking here? Oh, all right. And because his name is Tammuz with a T, you know how for Easter there's hot cross buns?
Yes.
Well, that cross isn't a cross. It's a T for Tammuz. Okay? Yeah, so there's all kinds of, that was the wildest one. There's tons of them. All right?
It's all
So,
made up.
yes! Yes, it's all, there's nothing to back it up. This is what I'm showing you is it.
Yeah.
This is it. This is what we have. And from this, which is, I've translated it for you right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have wild, 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 wild stories. All right? So now I'll bet you think, because you're all laughing, I'll bet you think that Semiramis has nothing to do with us today, right? I mean, we're all much too sophisticated and intellectual to allow her to have any influence on us today. All right, well, let's take a look at that. Do you know that if you go, you can go to the actual website, this is where I got this, to the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, and then you look in medals, and it will drop down to where it says design, medal design, which is what I did. You will see the Medal of Honor for the Air Force. The Air Force. What's this?
That's the goddess.
Oh, wait a minute. That's the Statue of Liberty, isn't it, right there?
Yeah.
Oh, but it isn't.
It is.
Oh, no. No, it isn't.
Samaras.
All right. Ugh, it's blurry. All right, here's what it says. This is on the site. This is on the official site. All right, it says, I have to get up here. All right, the Statue of Liberty is centered in the Air Force design. In addition to standing for liberty, she is derived from the imagery of Queen who? Of Babylon, who was famed for her beauty, strength, and wisdom.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
All right, so not only is the Air Force Medal of Honor represented by Queen Semiramis, also who else is she representing for us? The Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is a representation of Semiramis. How do you like that?
And it was gifted to us
From France.
From France.
Yeah, it was a gift from France, yes. All right, let's get through the rest of this because I just want to continue to blow your mind.
Go for it.
All right, let's go for it. Okay, so we get here, right?
Yeah.
So somehow we want to do this to our children. Okay? And is there anyone here that hasn't done it that celebrates Easter? Yes, we've all put our little babies on a scary big...
Bunny.
So we know where the bunny comes from, right?
Yes.
All right, so that comes from Easter's special rabbit, magic rabbit. And then we also know where the eggs come from. They come from her magic egg-laying rabbit. And then here you go, Effie. So from there, the Greek Orthodox Church has taken that tradition and they've decided to change it from the multicolored painted special magic eggs of Easter and to have it represent, well, you tell us, Effie.
Well, it represents the blood of Christ.
Yes. So they paint their eggs are red.
Yeah, they're all red.
They're all red. They don't have all those multicolors. All right, so they took that ancient egg symbolism and they changed it. They adapted it. All right, so they're all red. In Greek Orthodoxy, the Easter eggs are all red.
Yeah.
Other people did other things. Okay, so they, rather than have a hard-boiled egg, they decided to sweeten it up a little, and they noticed that jelly beans are in the shape of what? Eggs, all right, so we'll sweeten things up a little bit. So in the Easter nest, which becomes a basket, we're now going to put jelly beans. Did you all get jelly beans?
Oh, yeah. I love jelly beans.
All right, but then there were other people that decided they're going to take that and they're really going to elevate it. They're going to amp that up tenfold, and they're going to take that egg and they're going to make it out of awesome. I have to say that was a great move. That one was very, very good. Okay, so now you can see where all of these things are coming from. I've got one more. I think I only have one more. All right, now you've all heard of the Easter parade.
Yes.
All right, that is a great tradition. All right, that one, the tradition on that, the origins of that are not that far away. So the way that started was way back in New York on 5th Avenue, all of the finest, best people were dressing up for Easter Sunday, and they couldn't let that go to waste and just show themselves off in church. So what did they do? They walked themselves down 5th Avenue to make sure that absolutely everyone had an opportunity to see how glorious and fabulous they were. And so people started coming out to see the people walking down 5th Avenue, and they thought to themselves, well, you know what? We could do that too.
Yeah.
And so then everybody started dressing up for Easter, and then we get this. Another torture we're putting our children through. All right, because it's fun. It's just so much fun to do that.
Oh, geez.
Yes, isn't it fun to do that? Okay, so now, what do you think of the origins of Easter?
Well,
Strange.
Very strange, yes. So you see the wild rides that we're going to be going on, okay? And the surprises that I have for you. That's why I'm going to do a review, because you're going to see how things are connecting. And what's the main connection? It is going to be Christianity trying to find that common ground with the ancient cultures and using what is similar and incorporating it in an effort to, so we do these things and we don't question it, right?
no.
We don't question it because we just grew up that way. So where did it all come from, and what was the motivation for it, right? Okay, so next week I am going to tell you the very surprising story of Hanukkah.
Oh, yeah. That would be good.
All right?
Yeah, good time for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's going to land, then we're going to do Thanksgiving right before Thanksgiving, and then we're going to do Christmas will be our last one. All right, so next week we're going to talk about the origins of Hanukkah, where that came from, what that's all about. All right? Okay, everybody, thank you for coming, and I will see you next week.
Very good. Thank you.